Hey everybody, good to see you. Thanks for joining us today. What we're going to be talking about is number one reason that houses fall out of escrow. It's very simple. We're going to talk about some things you can do if you're the seller. We talk about some things you can do if you're the buyer, and hopefully this will be real helpful for you if you're thinking about buying and selling, and you get into the actual process of getting those things done. So before we get started, just want to say, if you're serious about buying or selling, give us a call. You might want us to help you. You may not. Either way, we're happy to give you some advice and point you in the right direction. And to get scheduled with us, you can go to showcasecall.com. So, oh, and if you can, I should have said this earlier, but if you can hear me okay, if you could just type yes or okay, something like that in the comments. And it looks like everything's working. If you're gonna buy a house or sell a house, eventually you're gonna get into escrow with that other party in the transaction. And at some point, the buyer of the house is probably going to get a home inspection, and then that home inspection is going to have a list of things that are considered wrong with the home. Some of those things can be code violations. Some of those things can be health and safety issues. Different building codes change over time. Sometimes the home inspection will note that this is something that was in code at the time the house was built, but it's not in code now. So those are some of the things that pop up on the home inspection. But what happens sometimes is the buyer gets really concerned about all of these things. Sometimes the buyer should be concerned, sometimes not. But the repairs are the number one reason that homes fall out of escrow. And so if you're going to buy a home, let's talk about some things that you should be considering if there's repairs that pop up that need to be taken care of on your home inspection. And let's talk about some things you can do as a seller. Before we get into detail on that, do want to say, if you're serious about buying or selling, give us a call. We would be happy to talk with you, give you some advice, point you in the right direction. You might decide that you want to let us help you to find your next home and negotiate the price and the repairs and things like that for you. You may not. You may decide that you want to work with somebody else or kind of go it on your own. Whatever is good for you is good for us. You can go to showcasecall.com to schedule a time to talk. So let's just kind of like wrap it up and bring some things together that can help you as a buyer and a seller. So if the home inspection does turn up some things, let's say you're the buyer and the home inspection does turn up some things that you feel are serious things to consider, then you can go to the seller and ask for a credit, or you can ask for the seller to lower the price or to fix those things. The seller may come back and may say, hey, I'm not going to do any of these things. Now you're at this point to where this is why so many deals fall out of escrow, is because people get cold feet when there's repairs to the home. But what you should consider is just go through these things kind of line by line and take a look at them. And let's say, for example, the air conditioning system. Let's say it looks awful, but according to the home inspection report, it's in great shape and it's still working. But that it's that it's like a certain age, and maybe it's past its time to go. So you would consider, like, how much is it going to cost to replace that? And you just go down through each of those items, and then also take into consideration, this is really important, would be what is your home warranty going to cover? So if you got a home warranty as that buyer, what would the home warranty cover if it were to break? And what would be your copay on it? Usually there's like a $60 or so trip charge or $50 trip charge. So if that AC unit was to break after you bought the home, is it going to be covered by the home warranty? And that's something to dig into, because home warranty plans differ from vendor to vendor, just like insurance plans for your health, or insurance medical insurance or dental insurance. Those kind of things vary from vendor to vendor. So the home warranty is kind of the same way. That's something important to consider. And I guess a third thing that you want to think about too is if you're the buyer and these things are scaring you off and you're thinking, well, I'm going to go get a home that's in better condition than this, just keep in mind, typically, if you're looking in a certain price point in a certain area, most all of those homes are going to have typically going to have similar issues, especially if they were built around the same time, because just homes wear out. Just like a car, you replace the tires, you have to get things serviced. Other times things break and wear out and you have to get them replaced. The home's no different. So if you're looking at a home that's, say 30 years old and at a certain price point, and you go and you look for another home in that same price point, that's probably that same age or around that age, you're going to run into similar issues. So those are kind of the things to think about. If you're a buyer, if you're a seller, and these issues pop up and your buyer is going to walk away, the things to really consider before letting a deal like this fall out of escrow for repairs would be looking at, how many offers did you have before? If you have multiple offers, can you go back to those offers if you were to fall out of escrow with this person? Because that person that's you're in escrow with to buy your current home, if they have issues on their home inspection report and they're coming to you saying, hey, we don't want to move forward unless you give us a credit or you fix this stuff or whatever, and if you feel their demands are unreasonable, are you willing to risk letting that person go? And now you've got to find another buyer. What's the cost of that going to be? So if you had multiple offers during your launch, your listing launch, can you go back to those offers and see if you can put anybody into place that might be more reasonable regarding the repairs? So you can even kind of like pre-screen them and say, hey, we had these issues with the buyer, we're in escrow, is that going to be an issue with you? And if no, you kind of go into it with everybody understanding, what might pop up on the new buyer's home inspection report. So you just have to weigh out. But now if you didn't have multiple offers and you don't have anything to fall back on, and also too, if you've got some very hard deadlines that you've got to meet, like if you've got to move into your next house, then that current buyer might be a little bit more valuable to you. So anyway, just things to consider if you do run into that. And a lot of times buyers and sellers run into these issues with requests for repairs. And it is the #1 reason that houses fall out of escrow. So, and if you're just joining us, we are getting ready to wrap it up, but I want to let you know, if you're serious about buying or selling, give us a call. You might want us to help you with that. You may not, but we're happy to give you some advice and point you in the right direction. And you can go to showcasecall.com to get scheduled. There's no pressure or obligation or any kind of cost, for us to talk and see if we can help you out. All right, so just to wrap it up real quick, if the #1 reason houses fall out of escrow is because of repairs, if you're the seller, you've got to evaluate whether or not you want to risk not making the repairs, and then that buyer cancels, and now you've got to find another buyer. So if you've got multiple offers, that's going to give you more leverage and probably make it a little bit easier to let that buyer walk away. If you're on the buying side of this thing, remember what's your home warranty going to cover, and home warranty coverages are vary from provider to provider. What's the cost of these repairs going to be? Is it still worth it to pay full price or whatever the price for the house? And then the third thing to remember is if you do cancel this house, cancel this escrow and go look for another house, if you're staying in the same price range and areas, and especially age, then it's a good chance you're going to run into some of these same issues on the next house, and you'll be having to deal with this again, except maybe you don't like the next house as much as you like the last house. So some things to think about. And one last time before I go, you can go to showcasecall.com and get scheduled with us to talk. It's no obligation, no cost, it's no pressure, and we'd be happy to give you some advice and point you in the right direction, whether you decide to work with us or not. So, all right, hope you have an awesome day, and thanks for joining me. Take care.